All right, we got Dipo Adesina on the hook today. He's going to be training y'all on selling IULs, how he sells them, how he finds them. Zero lead spend weekly. Issues 60, 70, 80 grand a month. Thank you, Dipo.
Also, yeah, my pleasure. So I guess to kind of start off where Frank just left off as far as how I find my leads. So I've always been a content creator and I rely so much heavily in educating people. So when I talked about, you really just taking the time to learn and understand a product, that's essentially what I did. I bought plethora of books on IUL, cash value policies, called the carriers to better understand it. And as I was acquiring those knowledge, all I simply did was to create 60 to 90-second videos, sometimes long format videos, and start educating people. Because you have to realize so many people out there have misinformation on how this product works. And so many, group of people have zero clue what this is. So if you ever think about going the route of generating your own organic leads, you have to make sure that you are the best at what you do as far as understanding the product to be able to educate people. And that's essentially what I've been doing for the last 3 years to get my business to where it is today. So what I'm going to do next is to jump into how I structure my policies for clients. Now, I primarily only write FNG. If I can't get a client approved, I pivot to NLG or Mutual of Omaha, but FNG just kind of works best for me, so I stick with them. Now, there are three different ways that you can structure a policy for a client. All right. You may have a client who say, well, I only have $300, $200, and I just need some type of coverage to cover myself in the event that something happens to me. My family's well taken care of. That's the first category of people. The second category of people are those who want to treat this like quote unquote their own bank or build some type of retirement account. All right. So there's a different structure for that. And the last category of people, which these are very rare, but these are folks who may have 400, 500, 600,000, and they want to see what it looks like to actually structure an IUL for that, which is also lucrative. So that means they can set up the policy where they put in 200, let's say they have $1 million, for example. They put in 200 again for 5 years, set it and forget it, and they're done. But you will rarely ever have those type of clients. So we'll just focus on the first two. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up if you can. Perfect. All right. So if you're not familiar with NLG, I'm just going to start from the beginning. So once you log in, this is what your home screen looks like. And then you click on illustrations right here. And then FNG illustrations. Okay. All right. Start a new case. And we're going to use John Doe. And John Doe is 40 years old in the state of Maryland. And for those of you who have never written FNG, the only product that you should be writing is the path setter, right? That's the only thing you should ever click on here. So we'll select that. And let's see. All right, so we're just going to leave everything standard, non-tobacco, and kind of go through the different scenarios here. So let's assume that you have a client who, let's say they're just bent on having $300,000 policy. That's it. They don't really care about the cost. They want a $300,000 coverage. All you're simply doing, this is very simple. It's just changing the initial face amount, and you change that 300 to 300,000. All right. Leave everything else the same. Now, one of the questions that people often ask is, Dipo, how do you know when to go with level or increasing? All right. There are different reasons why you would do level or increasing, but generally speaking, if a person is fairly young, meaning they're still like in their 30s or 20s, or even I would say mid 40s or high mid 40s or below 50, let me just put it that way. If they're less than 50 years old, you want to select option B. All right. And I'll tell you why in a second. And obviously, it's important to note that every single person's policy needs to be changed to a level once they clock like 65 thereabout. It doesn't matter how you started off, structuring their policy at 65, you need to make sure that they change it from increasing to a level. And the reason is this: if you don't change it to a level, once they start to get much older, the cost of the insurance start to go really, really high, right? And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. So once you put in the face amount, you leave everything else the same. You just hit calculate, all right? And it'll give you the cost, or the monthly premium for the coverage. All right, so we can see for $300,000 in premium, in death benefit, they're looking at roughly $350. Very straightforward and simple. All right, so once again, this scenario is for someone who tells you exactly how much coverage they need, and then boom, you put it into the system. So one of the things that I do now that makes it a lot easier for me to write IULs is that if I have a client who's looking for mortgage protection, all I simply do is just plug in whatever figure they're looking for, 150, 300,000, boom, plug it in, and then we're done. All right. Does that make sense so far? Give me some thumbs up. Perfect. All right. So let's move into something a little bit complex. Let's say you have a client and the client says, well, my budget is $200. So they don't really know what the face amount they're looking for is, but all they're working with is $200. Well, you click on this here, what says solve for, and you put in the face amount. All right. So once you put in the face amount, you're typing in the total annualized premium. So we're looking at $2,400 for the year. You click OK, and you simply click calculate. Okay, so for 40-year-old male who's working with a $200 budget, they're looking at roughly 169,000 because this is factoring in the cash value as well. So another thing for those of you who may not be clear on this, the difference between the leveled policy and increasing is that when you run it as increasing, all that means is that they're taking the cash value right here and they're adding it on top of the death benefit every single month that you're making your monthly premium payment, right? So what that also means is that because they're doing that, your death benefit is also increasing, right? So you notice that we started out with roughly 169. They added, no, actually, no, not 169, maybe like 171,000 thereabout. So because you added this, that now increased your death benefit. So as you get older, so at 65, you have $264,000 because they've added $92,000 of that cash value to the death benefit. So that's going to bump up the cost of your insurance. Is that clear to everyone? Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat box, and I'll attend to it. So let me just kind of show you what the difference is between running this as a level and increasing, so you can see the cost difference over time. So if you want to find out what the cost is for running running an illustration, and you can do this with any carrier, by the way. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you see where it says monthly charges and expense report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it as increasing, and I'm going to also run the same illustration as a level, so you can see the difference between the cost of insurance over time and why it's a lot beneficial to make sure that they change it to a leveled policy at some point, so that way they're not paying so much in cost of insurance, and as a result depleting their cash value. So monthly expense charge, and we're going to run that. And this is increasing. All right, I see a question here. All right, Desiree said, can't wait to see the difference. Excellent. All right, so let me download this. All right, so now let's do the level. Okay, so real quick, so you see this option here where it says option B to A. So you can set it up in the illustration where it changes it at 65 to, B to A, but in real life, you can't, it doesn't happen automatically. So the client will still need to call the carrier, hopefully when it gets to that age, to make that change. So we're just going to set it at option A and then run it. So Brett said, can you show illustration where clients started policy with 50,000 to kickstart it? Yeah, I can. Brett, what will be their I guess their monthly premium? Because they do need to have, when you say kickstart, you mean to dump in 50 grand? Okay. Yeah, I can do that. All right, so let's see the difference. So, well, let me just pull it side by side. Uh, okay. So this is, let's see, this is the leveled policy. So you can see the charges and expenses. It starts on this page, page 19. All right. So you can see the premium expense charge, everything is the same, 216 drops to 120. So you guys often hear that IUL is often expensive when it comes to the cost. That yes, it is, but that's really for the first 10 years. After that, the cost drops drastically, right? So you can see premium charge is the same, cost of insurance. So you can see here, right? This is the leveled policy, kind of starts off around the same price, but as this person start to get older, it start to change a little, right? So in 20 years, you're still at 512. Here you're 485. In 30 years, 376. So you notice how the cost of insurance is decreasing with a leveled policy. But if you look at the increasing policy, 30 years, 376, 30 years, 2,152, right? So what happens is that with the increasing, if they never change it, let's say at age 65 to a leveled policy, that means every year their cost of insurance is going to continue to increase. So anytime you hear somebody say like something like, well, I lost my cash value or my policy lapsed, is because they left it at increasing and because they were no longer keeping up with the actual cost of the policy. The insurance company dips into the cash value to help to, kind of substitute the additional funds you're supposed to come out of pocket with, right? So, I mean, hopefully this kind of helps. So if you have a policy set up at a level, you're almost guaranteed that it will never lapse, right? Because whatever premium you start off with at the beginning will help you to sustain it throughout the course of the policy. I mean, so you can see up until age 80. So 40 years later, 635 for the cost of insurance. While here at 80, 7,000 and some change. All right. So if we look at the death benefit, it's 336 here. And then at 80 is about 400,000 and some change. All right. Does this make sense to everybody? Melissa, do you show this to client? No, I do not. I do not, because it gets very complicated. But what I do tell my clients is that depending on how you structure the policy, you definitely want to tell them that, hey, once you get to age 65, especially if they're using it for retirement income, you have to change it to a level. Like, if not, your policy is certainly going to lapse. Why would anyone want option B? So option B allows you to accumulate your cash value on top of your death benefit. So if I were to, let's see, so this is option B. So where is it at? I'm looking, okay. So let's say at 50, this person happens to pass away at age 50. Original death benefit is 171, right? If they passed away at age 50, not only will they be getting the 171, but the insurance company is also adding that $19,000 of cash value on top of the original death benefit, right? So that's the benefit of increasing. It allows you to accumulate more death benefit coverage over time, while a level you're guaranteed that your cost of insurance is not going to continue to increase. It's actually going to decrease over time. But if you don't use your cash value, the money's technically gone in a leveled policy. And if you do use it, what will happen is, let's see. So let's say at age 50, for example, right? 19,000 and some change cash value, 171,000. So you notice how that's consistent, right? So if at 50, this gentleman passed away, didn't touch the cash value, the beneficiary gets the full 171,000. If they took out, well, the surrender value is what you're able to access from the policy, right? So let's say they took out 18,000 and never paid it back into the policy. The insurance carrier is simply going to deduct the 18,000 plus whatever interest that it accrued. They'll deduct it from the 171, and whatever is left is what gets paid out to their beneficiary. All right, Beth says, in this example, is the monthly premium the same for level and increase? Yes, it's the same, $200. Yeah. So where is it at? $200 a month. They're both the same. All right. So L Quick, I believe Frank is recording this, so I'm sure they'll make it available at some point. All right. There's something else I also wanted to say that I kind of forgot. All right, well, we'll come back to this. If anybody has any question regarding this, then we can always come back to this. So that's pretty much it as far as like you understanding how important it is to educate your clients on what they need to be doing over time throughout the course of the policy. So how does the increasing cost of insurance get covered? Great question, Beth. So remember I said that you will be notified. Like, let's say you're paying $200 and then by age 70, the cost or the premium that's required to cover whatever death benefit you have at that time is no longer $200, it's now $300. And you say, well, the insurance company will tell you, well, the new cost is $300. If you can't come out of pocket with that 300, that's when they start to dip into your cash value, right? So essentially your cash value will be taking care of the additional cost or even sustaining the policy. And once that cash value is depleted, the policy pretty much lapses at that point. Yes, cash value could definitely run out if it's not structured and funded properly. Yes. All right. Man, these questions are coming in pretty quick. So Ted says seems pretty odd that companies don't have an option. Yeah, I completely agree as well, Ted. I mean, that probably will be the easiest thing. Hopefully, at some point in the future, they might come up with something, something along that line. But right now, I mean, it's manually done. You have to make that call to get it done. So that's what I'm saying. Anytime you ever hear someone say that my policy lapsed, it's mainly because they didn't keep up with the additional costs. Insurance company dipped in the cash value. Once that lapsed, once that was depleted, the policy is pretty much done. And I've heard a couple of stories like that. Beth, so how does the increasing cost of, okay, I think I answered that already. Do you recommend starting with the option B to A when the client hit automatically? Yes. So beta A is only for illustration purposes, honestly, right? I don't even really use that because it doesn't translate to reality. So what I always emphasize on is the need to make sure that they change it to that level, especially if they're using it for as a retirement supplement. They will have to make that call because now they're actively thinking about using that policy during that time period. So hopefully that answers your question, Kenneth. Michael, I have seen some more options for return of premium apart from level. Seen some more options for return of premium. Can you elaborate a little bit more, Michael? I'm not sure I understand what you're referring to.
Dipo, if you want to roll, I will track questions.
All right, bet.
By the way, you're not like because I know you like get distracted, sidetracked. So, guys, you can put your questions here. If we have time at the end, I'll go through them and ask them. And then again, we always have our Ask a Specialist team that you can call, reach out to, email that will help you with all of this stuff. And I'd love to be able to answer everybody's questions, but we have, sort of a time restraint. So guys, put them in there. We'll get to as many as we can as soon as he's done going through what he's going to go through.
Perfect. All right. So the other option is max funded IUL. All right, where clients ask, the whole purpose of this policy, I don't really care about the death benefit. It's really for me to build a retirement supplement, right? And this is where, it's very important for you as an agent to always do right by the client. Because believe me, with everybody talking about IULs now, you can set up a client today with whatever structure you think is best to favor you from a commission standpoint. They can take that illustration, show it to another agent, and tell them, hey, you got screwed. So they will now rewrite that policy. I've done it a couple of times with different clients. When I looked at the illustration, I'm like, listen, this is bad business. So please make sure you always do right by the client. So max funded IUL, you click on Face Solve for, and max accumulation in income. It's good in the sense that you'll be able to see how much money you can take out every single year, once you start to pull money out. So we'll use this option. And then for the income, let's say this person is really serious about building their retirement. And maybe they're a physician, doctor, IT special, IT something. They're making a lot of money. And they say, I can put in $2,000 a month. All right. So we come in here. Let me go back so you can see what I did. So you click on solve for, drop down arrow, max accumulation and income details. And then you click on specified premium. And then you put in how much money they want to put in on a monthly basis, $2,000 a month. And then you click OK. All right. So pay premium 2, Y basically means year. So this person is 40 years old and they want to pay the premium until age 65. So we're going to change that Y to A and then change this to 65. Don't touch this. Don't touch this. You scroll down, leave this, because this is when they want to start taking out that income. And we're going to assume that they want to be able to take out retirement income for 25 years, right? So we're not going to tamper with this. But you can always, make changes to it if you want to. Then you want to click on minimum non-MEC death benefit. This means that they're going to get the absolute lowest death benefit, so that way they can max fund their policy. When they select this option, there is no more room for them to put in an extra $500, $10,000 down the road. All right. So we're going to do that and then click OK. Now, I'm actually going to tweak this a little. Well, let me run this and then we're going to come back and we're going to set this as increasing B to A and age 65 so that you guys can see what it looks like. And then I'm going to come back. I think it was Matthew that asked about the 50 grand. And I'm going to show you how to add the 50 grand to this to see what that looks like over time. All right. Real quick with the investment options, generally speaking, I usually leave it at, as the default, right? S&P 500 and the Barclay Trailblazers. So don't bother tampering with that. And you click calculate result. Right. Okay. So 24,000 a year. If you scroll down, so they contributed to age 65, start making payments, and then at 66, they start taking distribution. So this person can take out $124,000 and some change every year until they're 90 years old. And if they passed away at 90, guess what? Their loved ones would get, or 91, their loved ones would get 440,000, whatever the case, whatever is left behind. Right. So this is actually good for a client to be able to see, because they see what's possible, when it comes to that down the road. And so, yeah, like I said, the lowest death benefit, I think subtracting 20,000. So that's roughly about 460,000 death benefit. All right. So this is a fully funded IUL. And how do you know? If you look at the guideline level premium, it shows 24,000. So that means there is no more room to put in any additional contribution. If not, they're going to trigger MEC, and then a policy becomes a taxable event. So from a commission standpoint, obviously you're giving up a whole lot of commission for them to benefit from the cash value. So you'll be getting paid off of $6,400. All right. So that's that. Hopefully this makes sense to everyone. If it doesn't, drop your questions and Frank can go through them in a second. And then to Matthew's question, what does it look like if you dump in 50 grand? So let's assume that this fellow doing 2,000 a month, and he also wants to be able to put in 50,000. All you'll simply do is scroll down and you see where it says lump sum. You click on that. And where it says external 935, which means that they have money in their bank account that they want to put into the policy. External 1035 means that they have cash value in another IUL or whole life policy that they want to port over into this. All right. So we're just going to take 50, add 50,000 to this and click OK. And then we scroll up, calculate. So you'll notice that it's going to bump up the death benefit because now they're looking to put in more money outside of just the annual premium. All right. So we went from 460,000 to a little over $1 million. Why? Because they had a 50 grand deposit that they want to put in. So the more money you want to put into the policy from a lump sum standpoint, the more coverage that you need to accommodate that lump sum, so that way your policy does not trigger MEC. And then let's see. So obviously this also helps with your commission, I guess, but you can see that the level increased to 57,000. All right. And then 129,000. So 129,000. So you notice there's not really a whole lot of difference, mainly because the death benefit also increased. So now you're paying for more coverage, right? As far as cost of insurance is concerned. Well, let me check something here just to make sure this is set up as yep. So yeah, that's the lowest they can get. So I mean, I hope this makes sense to everybody. Thumbs up. Frank, I don't know if you want to grab some questions so that I can address them real quick.
Yeah, I'm going through them now. I'm just trying to answer some of them as I go. Let me see what we got. Let me just finish replying to this person. Guys, and a lot of these questions, I know I sound like a broken record, but a lot of these questions, you can either reach out to the Ask a Specialist team or reach out to the carrier directly. I mean, Dipo, you did this
Absolutely
better than anyone I've seen. You wore the carriers out because that's their job, by the way.
Yeah.
Their customer service department that handles running illustrations and risk assessments, they love talking to y'all. That's how they get paid. So, I mean, don't be afraid or bashful to call them because they're really good at what they do and they can run any scenario that you have. And they will also explain it to you if you ask them. Debo, I know you spent hours and hours on the phone, but those carriers just learning this stuff and obviously it works. Look at where you're at now. When it comes to, if you answer this already, Depot, just let me know, but I'm getting a gazillion text messages, so I'm trying to do 5 things at once. When it comes to max funding, how do you know how much they can contribute per year? It's a good question.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna go back to the normal stuff and just let's say they're looking for $300,000 coverage, no lump sum. All right. All right. Well, I think I did something wrong, but whatever you see here in a level premium, that's the annual contribution.
So
right. So let's say that.
Go ahead.
Huh? Yeah, so let's say they're paying $6,000 a year in premium. If you subtract the 6,000 from this, that leaves you with like 9 grand or some change. That will be the additional contribution that they can put in extra on top of that 6,000.
Okay. And the carriers, like, it's not anything you have to figure out, right? The insurance companies will not let you make a policy.
Yeah,
correct?
they won't. I've actually had a client who accidentally, maybe by like a couple dollars, went over the MEC limit and F&G mailed them back a check. Like they're not going to let you do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what if you put in like $200,000 in coverage and they want to pay 5 grand a month? Like it'll tell you, right? This is a MEC policy. You can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So you won't be making any mistakes for sure.
yeah, for sure. This is a good one. If not structured properly, how do you make sure it lasts to age 100 at least?
If it's not structured properly,
Yeah, that's a kind of I
yeah.
would,
So
I guess, how do
as
you
long as
structure
the
it so that it lasts to age 100?
yeah, if you take out, as long as you convert the policy at that age 65 thereabout, or you started as a level, I'm certain that a policy will not lapse. And if it's increasing, as long as you don't take out the cash value, that's another thing, right? You have to be willing to give something up. If you don't touch the cash value and you continue to make your monthly payment, their policy will last through the whole time. Where a lot of people get excited with the fact that, oh, I can borrow money from my policy, not pay it back, they get taken out of death benefit. Well, that's true, but if you take out more than you're supposed to and you don't pay it back, your policy will certainly lapse.
Yeah, and and the cool thing about this is, and that's what you guys should be telling all of your clients. Like, this is it's not a whole life, it's not a term. It can be used as both, but you don't get all the options. So see, it's usually one or the other, and maybe a combination of both, but it's not full combination of both. So I always used to tell people, listen, if you if and you run an illustration like you just did, if you start drawing in 20 years, and you do this much, this policy is going to last you for the rest of your life. If
Yeah,
you take out more than you're supposed to, it's not necessarily going to lapse, but your premium's definitely going to go up. And more
exactly.
likely, you're not going to want to pay that increased premium because it's not like $100 to 150. It's
It's
like
not.
$100 to 800. So I don't want to say I scare them, but I'm definitely very transparent with having them understand this, because I do believe, Dipo, and you've probably heard and seen this, there are a lot of agents out there that sell these extremely wrong. They promise some
100%.
guaranteed 100% death benefit for the rest of their life, cash value, all this stuff, but they don't explain to them the ins and the outs, and it winds up hurting the client, and that's not what we're all about.
Yeah, facts.
All right. Can you do a quick, let me see if I have anything. It's 12:37. I'm looking for a really good, again, anything about a quick illustration, guys, please call the carriers. You will not regret it, because they'll show you exactly, you open up the illustration software, they'll walk you through exactly what buttons to click, and then you'll know exactly how to do it moving forward.
Exactly.
It's a good one. Why do you get paid from the target premium and not the annual? And how does that work?
Yeah, so I cannot best explain this. So essentially you're giving up. So there's a way, if we were to run this like just as a straightforward policy, no structuring, I can essentially set this up where the target premium is 24,000. So where the AP is equal to the TP, and essentially my commission is going to be on 24,000. But whenever your target premium is this low or lower than the annual premium, is because you, as the agent, you're giving up part of your commission so that way they can have more cash value accumulation, right? So that's where you're thinking more about the client as opposed to what you're trying to do for yourself, right?
Yep,
So because IU is a very flexible product, so you can really tweak it in so many different ways to favor either you or the client. So
for sure. And Depot, two things. The carriers are looking for that kind of stuff. People that are spending 5 grand a month, 2 grand a month, where
yeah,
the target is not where it should be for what, they're not stupid. They know what to look for. So don't do it. Set it up
yeah,
for the client. The reason they pay you on the target and not on the actual premium is because it is, like Depot said, flexible. They could apply and get approved for a policy where they're putting 5 grand a month in, but the target's 2,500. And then the next month they could lower their payment from 5 grand to 2,500. The insurance company's now out all that money they advanced you. You do,
yeah.
however, at the end of the 12 months, Depot, you do get some of that extra money that they put in contributed, correct?
Yeah, yeah. If you put in the lump, if they put in like a lump sum, whatever the case may be, you're definitely getting a cut of that too. Like for example, the one that I did for Matthew, I did a 50 grand. If they did put in that 50 grand, you're getting a percentage of that 50 outside of um, your target premium.
Yeah. All right, this is a good question. This will be the last one, guys. I'm sorry, but I try to keep this to 30, 40 minutes. What pages on the illustration do you go over with your clients? That's such a good question. Thank you, Malat.
So I usually try to get them kind of give them an idea of what's possible with the policy. So before I get to like what the average, interest crediting is, I go over this page right here where we kind of review the last 20 years of how the S&P performed, explain what, that level or that floor means, meaning that the years where the market does a negative, like in 2022, your money will always be protected. So you're guaranteed never to lose a dime. And then we kind of go over the cap, right? So with FNG, the cap is 12% with this particular index. So
Yep.
once I kind of give them an idea that, hey, some years you could very well see up to 12%. So they see what's possible. And then when I go over, obviously I cover like the writers and all that
Mhm.
good stuff as well. So by the time I get here, I just show them that, well, this is just a hypothetical scenario, right? Assuming that all you did for the next 20, 30 years was to earn an average of 6.35%. This is what's possible in this policy, right? But based on what we looked over, you can see that some years you're getting 12%, some years 8%. It really all depends. But, on average, let's just assume that this is what you did. Then by age 65, when you go to retire, well, I mean, this is not structured for retirement income, but you're looking at about 97 grand at retirement.
Yeah. And the cool thing too is if you go back to that first page you went over, the S&P is not ever down 2 years in a row because
Yeah.
it's the top 500 companies. So if at the end of the year one and they're down, they take some companies, they move them out, and they move some new ones in, and it keeps that market always growing. The top ones are always usually in, but it's a pretty solid investment if you look at it that
Yeah.
this one down in 2008, back up in 2009, down in 2011, back up in 2012. And it's not just down 1.5, up 17, down 39, up 27,
Mhm.
down 17 in 2022, up 21 in 2023. So it's a great index. It's why annuities use it as well as IULs. But one real quick thing here, Dipo, can you stop sharing your screen real quick?
Yep.
Never mind, I could do that. This just came out. I want y'all to wait a minute. Can you see my screen?
Ah,
No.
okay.
Can you see it?
Let me snap that real quick. Yep.
Oh yeah, it's it. All right. So um new uh trip announcement just came out. So it'll be a 4-day, 3-night deal in Cancun, Mexico. No cruise this time for y'all that don't like ships or boats. It starts today, August 1st. It runs through May. It's actually May 1st. That they made a typo there. So it'll go from August 1st to May 1st. You have 10 months to qualify. There's different tiers: cactus, agave, jaguar. I don't even know how to say the last one, Quetzal. 250K minimum over the next 10 months, you qualify. The more you do above 250, the more perks you'll get. Maybe better rooms, certain things, dinners. I don't know all the details yet, but it's been announced. So share this with your team. And guys, we just got off the cruise Monday, and it was a great trip. Agents were fired up. Sean was fired up. The carriers were fired up. I think this is a good goal for everyone. And Depot, 250 grand. How many months do you need to do that?
Man, Matt, you at least 5 months. I mean, with IULs, and if you know what you're doing, 5 months, 6 months, you could get that done.
Easily. And I
Yeah,
I, I believe you could probably do it in 4, 3 if you really
I'm a gun
if you
for it.
really want. Yeah, for sure. So I mean, guys, it's not even mortgage protection final expense, 250 grand in 10 months. Not that difficult. So excited for this. Just came out today. Depot, thank you so much for sharing with us.
Pleasure.
Super excited and honored to have you on our team. If I didn't get to your questions, guys, you can always feel free to text me. You can always feel free to reach out to the Ask a Specialist. So we will see you all on Monday on the builders call, and then again next Thursday for the SRS call. Appreciate you all for joining. Take care.
Awesome. Yep.